Welcome to Talk Law Radio with attorney Todd Marquardt of the Marquardt Law Firm at marquardtlawfirm.com.
Welcome back to Talk Law Radio. I'm Todd Marquardt. We're talking about trustees because this could be a hidden legal issue blind spot for you. And I want to help you prevent legal issue blind spots. I want to help you discover them by listening to me talk about the law on the radio. You see, I came up with the Talk Law Radio idea because I learned that in the beginning, God had one law: don't eat from the fruit of that tree. Then we had the 10 Commandments, and now we have municipal, state, and federal lawmakers that won't stop creating new laws that might impact you, laws that might affect you and your business. And so today we're talking about trustees, how to choose a trustee. And you can ask a question live on the air by calling the radio station at 210-308-8867, or you can text Todd, that's me, got my number right here, 210-538-4770, 210-538-4770. Before the break, I was getting into what should you look for when selecting a trustee, and we're going to continue with that. Number one, the ability to ask for help when needed. The trustee does not have to be an expert in every area of trust administration. They can get help from financial advisors, tax preparers, and attorneys. The person you name as trustee should be detail-oriented. Trust administration is a process that begins with specific legal steps that must be taken. Trustee must compile a list of everything that the trust owns and keep accurate records of income and expenses. The person you name as trustee should be organized. Depending on what the trust owns, how many beneficiaries there are, and the trust distribution plan, there may be a lot of moving parts. The trustee should have good communication skills. Although the trustee has authority over the trust, they are supposed to act in the best interest of the beneficiaries. And so it's important for the trustee to clearly communicate with the beneficiaries, deliver necessary information, and be available to answer any questions that the beneficiaries might have. The person you name as trustee should be a rule follower. State and federal laws, as well as instructions within the trust, must be followed. While a trust may have provisions that allow a trustee to use their discretion in some matters, there are other instances in which the trustee is required to do certain things in a specific way. Who could be a trustee? Well, you could name a family member, a spouse, an adult child in many cases. I've lots of clients that choose a family member like that. You could name a family friend. You could name a professional third party, like I was talking about, a bank, financial institution, trust company. Those are the professionals, and I'll get into more detail about that in just a moment. Okay. Have you chosen the right trustee? So by listening to this program, you might decide that you're not sure. We want you to be sure and confident that you've chosen the right trustee. If after listening to this program you have some doubts about that, you might want to contact your attorney so that you can get specific legal advice about your unique situation. And I have a resource called the Trustee Scorecard that I can give you free if you email me at host@talklawradio.com. That's HOST@talklawradio.com. It's just a way of comparing the different options that you've come up yourself, a way of allowing you to to score on your own how confident you are in their abilities using some factors. Here's a myth. Only professional trustees, such as banks and other institutions, can receive compensation for their work. That's a myth. You can decide what the trustee is paid, or have different ways of compensating individuals or institutions. So it's not only banks and financial institutions that can be paid. Individuals can be paid also. And you can set a specific dollar amount, or you can set it up a different way so that maybe it's adjusted for inflation or is tied to the consumer price index. I've seen those set up that way before. And by the way, you can decide all kinds of things about the trustee. You could have different roles that the trustee would serve. Okay. Many times, if you're setting up a revocable living trust or an inter vivos trust, as it sometimes is known, you can have a trustee that you name to be your disability or incapacity trustee. You might have a different person that would serve in the role as after death trustee, because the duties that need to be carried out might be different at each of those stages, and so you might have different ideas about who should serve in that role. For example, if you're incapacitated, you need to have a trustee that's going to manage the accounts or investments or properties or oil and gas interests or whatever during the time that you're ill, injured, or otherwise incapacitated or not able to make your own decisions. And that could be a short time or it could be a long time. And you might even tie some instructions in there that regard your health care and medical care. I like to put a section in a living trust called the Take Care Of clause, so that you can tie the type of care that you want to receive with instructions on how to pay for that. And so we put that inside the trust, and you can decide that you want to stay home no matter what. You want to live in the nicest assisted living facility in town. Oh, we got a call. Line 1, Paul, you're live on the air. What's your question?
Hi. I basically was wanting to know the difference between a trust and a beneficiary.
Okay, well, the beneficiary would be the person that you want to receive benefits or money or assets, and you name that person in the trust document. Does that answer your question?
Well, kind of. As far as, is there any connection to who would be in charge of a headstone after it's bought and purchased, but then since a deceased person can't own it, who would then be in charge of that?
Well, it sounds like a very specific question, but I would presume that it would be detailed in the purchase agreement or the contract when it was purchased. So if you can identify the name of the company that sold the headstone, you might call them and ask those detailed questions of them. Mm-hmm. But thank you for your call. Where are you calling from?
From San Antonio, Texas.
Okay, great. Thank you, Paul.
All right. Thanks.
Take care. Okay, line 2, we have Tom with a question.
Yes, sir.
You're live.
My wife and I have a revocable trust, and the reason we did it is to avoid probate. And what I noticed is on the trust itself, I don't see anything about beneficiaries.
Okay, well, it should be in there for a trust to be valid. It has to have those 3 parties: the creator of the trust, the trustee of the trust, and the beneficiaries. And if you don't see names, what I've seen many times from...
Oh, I see children. Yeah, there are children.
Yeah, I was just going to say children, or sometimes lawyers will use the word descendants, which is those who descend from you.
Okay, and does this avoid probate?
You're right that the living revocable trust is designed to help avoid probate, but here's another important factor to make the trust work. Is the trust only owns those assets that you have retitled or re-registered or put in the name of the trust. So that's called funding the trust. And if you went down to the bank or your other financial institutions and said, I now have a trust and I want to make sure that my trust owns these accounts, that's how you would make sure that your trust is properly funded.
Okay, but IRAs don't go in trusts.
That's exactly right. That's
right?
a big exception. IRAs or 401ks need to stay in your own name, because if you transfer those, the IRS says that's a taxable event.
Okay. But if I have a CD at a bank and it has beneficiaries, do they still need to go through probate?
Not necessarily. Hopefully not. But the beneficiary designation on accounts is usually limited to naming one person. What happens if that beneficiary becomes incapacitated? You know, if they have a disability, or if they get in an accident or sudden illness, who would manage that money for them? Or what happens if they die and you become incapacitated and you're not able to make any changes to your trust? Well, if you have the beneficiaries named in your trust, usually there's a clause after that that says, if one of my children is deceased, then the contingent beneficiary would be so-and-so, and you can name contingencies upon contingencies in your trust, because there's more paperwork there's more words, and so you can account for more situations.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tom. Take care.
Uh-huh.
Okay, well, that was great. We had 2 callers, got to talk about setting up a trust and questions about what certain terms mean. And let me go back to trustees. Who would your trustee be? Well, you can have different trustees operating at the same time, managing assets at the same time. And so you might have a distribution trustee, the one that would give benefits to the beneficiaries, and you can have a different trustee that's the investment trustee, who's in charge of taking care of the assets. And I'll talk more about why that's important after we take a break. Stay tuned.
This has been Talk Law Radio with attorney Todd Marquardt, brought to you by the Marquardt Law Firm. You can learn more at marquardtlawfirm.com. And be sure to listen to the full Talk Law Radio show Saturday mornings at 11 on 9:30 a.m. The Answer.
Each week, attorney Todd Marquardt talks about the law. His mission with the Talk Law radio show and podcast is to help you discover your legal issue blind spots. In the beginning, God had one law. Don't eat from the fruit of that tree. Then came the 10 Commandments. Now we have federal, state, and municipal lawmakers that won't stop creating new laws. Laws that might impact you without you knowing it. Listen to the show and drop a line on Facebook or email host@talklawradio.com and let the host know what you think of the show, the topics you want to hear, and whether you want to be a guest.